Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the third Early Career Researchers Conference. My name is Arkaitz Carracedo. I'm a group leader at TIC Biogune, a research institute in the north of Spain, and I represent early career researchers in the EACR board together with Elisa Uricchio. So I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is Christian Frezza from CCAT, Cologne, Germany. He will be speaking about mindfulness. He's a great scientist, great person, and a very good friend. And I really thank you, Christian, for taking the time of telling us not only about your experience, but also how you face your daily work in science. And the floor is yours. I will connect back for the questions and answers. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Arka. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So today, well, it's really a pleasure to be here with the audience. I'm very excited about it. If anything, because this is the first time I give such a talk on this topic. And, you know, it's an experiment, so bear with me. The experiment is not perfect, but we'll try, and I'm very looking forward to hearing from your feedback. Okay, let me share my presentation.
Perfect.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not the usual science talk that I will give, so I took some liberty to use PowerPoint in a way that I generally don't do it. So bear with me also with this weird backgrounds and animation, but I wanted to give it a try. So today, I want to share with you my experience with mindfulness. And I hope at the end you will at least have heard about why mindfulness could be very helpful for you, not only in your career as a scientist, but also for yourself as a human being. So first, I have a couple of disclaimers I wanted to make you aware of, just because maybe just to curb some of the expectations. I'm not a meditation teacher, so what I will discuss is based on my experience, knowledge, and interpretation that I have accumulated in the past years. But this is far from being a medical advice. And as you will see later, maybe if you read some of the pieces I've written, I don't want to say today that mindfulness would be the solution for all problems. And in particular, mindfulness cannot solve more serious mental health problems and issues that otherwise need to be done properly with some medical personnel. And this also will be discussed later in the end. Okay, so take this just as a discussion. And but why, where, and when did it all start? So after some years of mumbling, I decided to write down in an article that I published for Defense Network, an article entitled "The Mindful Scientist," where, and I must say this wasn't an easy piece to write for reasons that will become apparent in a second. Anyway, here I wanted to share, with the community. This was in the middle, in the middle of the pandemic. So I wanted to really try to help the scientific community after, this tragedy that was the pandemic and the lockdown. And in particular, here, I started the article just by indicating this, that our life, the life of the scientist, is subject to really an emotional roller coaster, from the highs of an accepted paper or the lows of a rejection, and we all have experienced this. However, while we spend a lot of time in training how to improve the science, I had never received any kind of training on how to cope with these emotions, with the rejections, and with failure that is a constant feature. So I say we need to do something. We need really to make, especially early career researchers, aware of the fact that, of course, science is a profession and we need to get better at that, but we also need to get better in coping with emotions. And, I wanted to share my experience on mindfulness and meditation, also because I think, and this is why the article actually was difficult to write, because from my point of view, there is a lot of stigma around mindfulness and meditation and even mental health. And in particular, for mindfulness and meditation, when I was younger and people told me I do meditation or I do mindfulness, I could think of everything but what in reality is mindfulness and meditation. And I would imagine people in some wearing some dress clothes and a strange thing, and maybe drug being involved, or some religion maybe involved, and the frankincense that you need to use for meditating. All these things that eventually are just misinterpretation of what mindfulness and meditations are. And so actually I want to start this just by giving an idea of what is meditation and what is mindfulness, a proper definition. So as you can see, let me see the pointer, okay. So the meditation is a practice, okay. So it's an activity in which an individual uses technique to train attention and awareness. So attention and awareness will be two important concepts that will allow you to reach a sort of mental clarity and calm. Okay. However, mindfulness is not a practice. Mindfulness is the human ability to be present at the present moment and not overly reactive, and in particular, non-judgmental. And so what we can say is that you can be mindful without being in a state of meditation. So you can be mindful even without this practice of meditation, but you cannot be in a state of meditation without being mindful. Okay. I know this might be confusing, but I have a cartoon here where you can see this difference, what is overlapping between meditation and mindfulness and what is not. I put here, and of course I'm happy to share this presentation with all of you, so you don't even have to take notes, but here this is the definition of Kabat-Zinn, which is one of the first authors to bring mindfulness into the Western world. And he gives this definition, that is, the mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, and to be non-judgmentally aware of the unfolding of experience. Okay, so as you can see, mindfulness is really something very simple. Well, as you will see, it's not that simple. That is to be able to live the present in a non-judgmental manner. So to achieve mindfulness, there are, again, this is a very simplified view, but I have all the connection, the links to other websites if you want to learn more. But there are two things that you want to achieve when you are doing this action of meditation and to achieve mindfulness. One is called open monitoring, and the other one is focused attention. I will explain you briefly what this means. I will start with focused attention because this is something that we will do in a couple of slides. So attention, meaning that when you are meditating, and you can be sitting, standing, anywhere you like, but focused attention meaning that you need to pay attention to what is called an object of meditation. And very often this is the breath. So you just sit and look at and listen to your breath. This is attention. The other aspect that will enable you to achieve mindfulness is the open monitoring meditation. This is where, by sitting, you become fully aware of everything that is happening outside of yourself and inside as well. So by combining focused attention and open monitoring, you will, at some point, reach a state of mindfulness. Of course, there are many different types of meditation that will enable you to achieve this mindfulness. This can be guided, and you can sit down and you can hear the teacher explaining what to do. There is mindful walking, there is mindful stretching. Nowadays, since the idea of mindfulness was brought from the East to the West, mindfulness has really taken a lot of shapes. You might have heard about mantra meditation, the body scan meditation, and I'm happy to discuss all of this later. So now, of course, as a scientist, I'm very intrigued by the components, the scientific components of mindfulness and meditation. And I might say that again, since 2000, there's a lot of science and a lot of evidence that mindfulness can actually play a very important role in the mental stability of a person. So in order to and this is a schematic that explains this. So you need, first of all, to have a series of motivation and factors that will start you in the journey of meditation, that is mind training. And this is motivation, intention, expectation, What this will lead is to increase your attention and flexibility, both emotional and cognitive, to the presence. And this concept of non-judging awareness is emerging again. This is where you really need to be aware of the present without judging any feeling or sensation. And this will bring about important physical and mental outcomes, including well-being. Now, if you want, I have an exercise that I want you to do. It's very short. Okay. So the exercise is really just to focus on the breath, sitting where you are. You can turn off the camera and you can focus on the breath for only 3 minutes. You close your eyes and focus on the breath. And then we reconvene because I want to discuss what eventually will come out from this experience. So I will keep the timer. Okay, so I will recollect you in 3 minutes. So please start now, close your eyes and begin to focus on your breath. Try at least, and then we reconvene in 3 minutes. Okay. Okay, everyone, I hope you're still there. So this is, I think, maybe if for those of you who are not familiar with the mindfulness practice and the meditation, this is what you generally do, at least to begin with. And I wanted you to try this very simple exercise and explain why actually mindfulness could be important and be an important exercise to train your mind. Now, I don't know if we have much time, but I thought I would ask you, for instance, or some of you in the audience might tell me how they find this exercise, what was difficult, what experience they had, especially for those of you who were never done mindfulness meditation. I would be curious to hear that. However, I also have a list of the aspects that I think might be helpful to discuss anyway. So if any of you would like to raise a hand and tell me how they felt by just looking at the brain. Yes, let me see. Okay. So let me know. I will wait for a minute, and then if I don't see any questions, I will proceed. Really, anything that comes to mind, was it easy, difficult? It would be very interesting.
Hi.
Yes, there is a question.
I raised the hand, but I don't know if you can see it. Yes, I'm Pilar.
Pilar, hi.
Yeah, hi. I noticed that I couldn't have my mind clear. I was thinking about stuff all the time.
Exactly. Yes, very good point. Yes, this is one of the main reasons why I wanted you to try the exercise now, because this is, as you will see, one of the main reasons why eventually this practice could be useful. Thanks very much, Pilar. Okay. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So I have here a list of the points that I want to discuss with you now. Okay, so it's not the case that I put this as a list. And the first point is that it is very difficult to focus, even though, even if we have only 3 minutes here, I bet that this was very hard to concentrate and to focus only on the breathing. So this shows that we are constantly distracted by thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we are often thinking, I'm sure a lot of you did this, me included, you often think about the past, you often think about the future, you are planning constantly, maybe thinking about the conversations we just had, maybe what I just told you, and then we realize that we are distracted. So here, I think this is a beautiful example, this cartoon that I put here. Oh, thanks, by the way. Okay, I see here 2 points from Rita. It was easy for me. I enjoyed the silence. Thanks, this is a very important point. And also struggle to concentrate, okay. But okay, so here, look at this cartoon that I have on the right. This is how it looks to meditate. So the first layer is the layer of the meditation exercise. First you focus on an object, the breath in this case, then you start wandering. Then your brain recognizes the wandering, and then you suddenly wake up, and then you remember the task of the meditation exercise, and then you return to the object of meditation. So in terms of cognitive functions of your brain, there is a phase of sustaining the focus on the object of meditation, then you have distraction, disengaging, and shifting back to the meditation object. There is a lot of work now that looks at how the brain actually works. It's called the brain network. And it's very intriguing. They show by looking at functional MRI and all how different parts of the brain react to this exercise. They have different names of these phases. And it's interesting that the default model of the brain function in the network is the mode of distraction. So we are indeed constantly distracted. Our brain operates in this way. And then the brain realizes that and then has the ability to change and reorient into the focus of the meditation. So what matters really from this exercise is that meditation and mindfulness are the exercises. So this is the purpose of the whole endeavor here, is to be able to more clearly focus on an object, maintaining the focus, and then realize when you are lost in thoughts. So this is the exercise, nothing more simple than that. Okay? Okay. And so, yes, this is what I summarize here. And then over time, and this has been proven in this paper that I cite here, you can train your brain to more quickly focus on an object of meditation. And this is important. Again, thanks to Pilar, the first of our questions, realize that we are constantly distracted. And for you as scientists, but also human being, this is sometimes it can feel like a real problem. You know, we are doing an important task, we are writing the thesis, write a paper, and we are constantly distracted. So this is something that, again, if you think about how we can improve the situation, by doing this exercise, we are able to realize much faster and much quicker when we are lost in thought. Then there is a very beautiful piece from Oliver Berkman, an author and journalist of The Guardian, and he actually speculated that when we are doing something very important, like again an experiment, and we constantly distracted, is that actually we are distracted in a way because we are worried that the task that we are going to do is going to fail, or actually is going to finish at some point. So distraction is actually an emotional response to the present and to our default mode of our brain. And this is why, if we look at things and distraction from this point of view, there are no anti-distraction hacks like using apps that block Facebook, Twitter, or social media that can actually work, because no matter what, your brain will be distracted. If you block all your social media, then you will be distracted by the windows, and you will start looking outside, you will start to make a cup of tea if you are writing a thesis and so forth. So this is, again, an interesting perspective, I think, about the main feature of your brain that is to be distracted. Distraction, however, could lead to procrastination. And procrastination, I'm sure you have all heard about this, and this is the official definition. It's important to say this. Procrastination is a voluntary delay of an intended action despite expecting to be worse off with this delay. So this is the proper definition of procrastination. And we suddenly realize that procrastination is not an issue of time management, as often we are told, but actually is an issue of emotional regulation. So we need to understand when we are lost in thoughts, distracted, and we tend to procrastinate, we need to be able to regain control of our focus and go back to the focus on our job. I think this is why mindfulness can be a very good exercise when you play. Now, the other 3 points I want to make, and that some of you might have experienced, is that very rarely when you are doing this exercise of focusing on the breath, you are actually living the present. And you very often think about the future and the past, but this is a very important problem I want to highlight. Every experience that you are making is so short-lived that you don't realize what you're missing if you're constantly thinking about the past and the future, in particular with a relationship. And this led me to a very beautiful piece written by Sam Harris. The link is here, and that is called "When Was the Last Time?" And this is a very salient example of what we miss very often if we are constantly projected in the past and the future. You can miss the last time you say goodbye to one person. You don't realize that maybe when you leave a lab, it would be the last time for some reason that you will see a person. Maybe you go and you do your postdoc and you leave your PhD lab, you don't go back, and maybe this person for some reason passed away. This happened to me very often, unfortunately. And you don't remember exactly when you last saw this person. Why? Because you're constantly thinking about the past and the present, and you rarely leave the present. So what I want to point out is by doing mindfulness, you tend to be more reactive and more present in the present moment. And this is very important to your experience. You are all connected by people, and think about the people that you have now and not the one that you have in the past or in the future. And this is, again, is important. We don't want to live in the past, although maybe in your mindfulness exercise that you just did, you've been thinking a lot about the experiment that didn't work last week and what happened with the discussion with your supervisor. But if you think about the past is gone, there is no way mumbling about the past is going to help us. So try to go beyond this. And the mindfulness, I think, is very helpful, at least to me, to make sure that when you are stuck in the past, then you go back and you revert to the present. And the same happens to the future. Very often when we think about the future, we live, it's like we are living in the future, and we forget where we are, and we start living the ideal life that will arrive. and we might never know. But this is also, a very important problem with our racing mind. And this leads me to a very important point. I wrote about this in a piece I wrote for Frezza, which is called "Do You Want to Be a PI?" Because especially for early career researchers, I've been so, and so I know exactly what happens, is that you're constantly thinking about the next step of your career. I've been in contact with junior scientists asking me, okay, how can I be a PI if they even were a PhD student, right? Because we constantly think about that moment where you will become a PI or where you become a professor. And this is a very serious issue for two reasons. The first one is, again, that we are constantly distracted by this future thought. Second, we don't know whether that thing that we think will make us happy will make us happy when we reach it. Okay, this is, I think, exemplified beautifully by this cartoon here. This is called the illusion of arrival. And I think I'm happy to discuss more about this because it's something that very often happens. But this leads also with the realization, almost worry, that the present is ungraspable. So if you think about it, where is the present? We cannot grasp it. But it is, in a way, it is positive realization because it also tells us a basic principle of meditation and mindfulness. That is the concept of impermanence that I want to discuss with you very quickly. Impermanence meaning that all the thoughts, feelings that we might be experiencing now they pass away, they arise. Very often we don't call for them, so they just appear. And maybe some of you during the exercise might have seen that there are all sorts of thoughts that come about, maybe some good, some bad. You engage with them, and then they disappear. So this, has important consequences. If you understand that these thoughts are impermanent, you will have understood a very important principle that all the things are, coming and going in life. And so maybe this will help you to be less bound to the feeling and to the thoughts that you have at any given moment. And one point I want to make again for us as scientists, you will have realized, and I'm happy to elaborate, that a lot of the thoughts that you have and ideas come without you asking. And this is not a chance. You might have heard very often that, some people say, I had this idea when I was showering, I had this idea when I was running. And this is actually the reality. So these ideas are very often not driven by your conscious self, but they happen in your brain and all of a sudden they appear. So this also shows that you don't necessarily have to, struggle, work too hard to come up with new ideas. When there's the right time, they will come. And very often is when you are more not thinking about those. Same happens to emotions. And this is very interesting because if I ask you when you were doing this exercise, maybe you have felt some anxiety, maybe you felt some worry. Oh, am I going to be 3 minutes in silence? This is awful. I'm never going to do it. So you will have had some feelings, but these feelings very often tend to become yourself. You have this anxiety, the heart is racing, and then all of a sudden you feel that you are anger. You don't have anger, but by looking at, from a mindfulness point of view, by looking at feelings and what they are, this will give you distance to the feeling. And all of a sudden, by thinking, okay, this is just discomfort in the belly or maybe in the chest, then you will start to detach from the feeling. And this is a very interesting cartoon where people will ask where they feel a specific feeling, like aggressiveness, disgust, fear. And you can see that they are located in different parts of the body, but this is what they are. Feelings and emotions are just, some things that happen in our body, but very often we are too personified by our feelings. So in closing this, I would just like to say this is a beautiful metaphor that is used in the world of mindfulness, is that thoughts, feeling, emotion, distractions are seen as clouds in the blue sky. So, and as you know, for sure, these clouds are passengers. They will come and go, but the blue sky is always there. And this is your mind. You are already calm and relaxed, and you are just getting these thoughts and emotions that comes and go. Okay, it's just about recognizing this. And finally, I want to, maybe this is an extreme aspect of mindfulness that I want you to be aware of because I find it very fascinating. Some of you, maybe who have done already this, might have realized that when I'm focusing on the breath, and then you start imagining that there is, or you might have the feeling that there is someone in your head looking at the breath, feeling, the sensation. However, this open almost a paradox. If there is someone in my head looking at the breath or thinking about the feelings, who is actually feeling those things that the person feeling? So as you can see, this is beautifully exemplified by this cartoon. It really opens a paradox that is still a paradox that science not address. This is opening, a lot of questions that I love to, to talk to. We don't even, when we look outside, we think we see the world through our eyes and through our head. But if you think about, like this beautiful illusion from Herschel, you actually don't see your head, you don't feel your head. So where am I? And then you realize that the world that you see, your body, are all integrated processes that are actually elaborated by your brain and become vision. What you are looking now, my screen, me, is a vision that your brain is projecting into your mind. Actually, this is your mind. So what we discussed at the beginning, it's what is called dual mindfulness, meaning that we have, this is how we imagine it. I am looking at my breath, I am looking at the sky, and there is, again, this mini-me inside my brain. However, this concept can be surpassed by the idea that we have non-dual awareness. This is called non-dual awareness, where actually we, as a self, belong to the awareness itself. Oh, 1 second, I have a question. Okay. So, Arka, I am closing now. I just wanted to say that this issue of mind is still open. This article came from this week in Nature. They actually, there was a bet 25 years ago that by 2023 we would have discovered the mechanism through which consciousness works, but actually we haven't yet. So this is quite an important issue, and I think it's something that we all need to explore in order to understand how it works. But practically, what I want to say here is that by this elaborated construction of ourselves, we often create what I call here a self-avatar. So we create a version of ourselves that we want to be, that might be to some extent different from what we are. And this happens when we also look at the others and our friends. We all create avatars of this friend, how they want them to be. And this, in my view, is one primary source of suffering, both for us, because we would like to be X, Y, and Z, but in reality we are not. And therefore, the more there is tension with this avatar, the more we suffer. And the same for the people that we live with. We think that the people should respond in a certain way, but in reality, this doesn't happen because these people are their own version, and therefore we are disappointed constantly. So we need to be fully aware of this, and we need to accept ourselves and people as they are. Arka, how are we doing with time?
We're doing fine. We have 10 minutes for questions if you want to stop now, or if you want to do a final point.
Okay, no, maybe I think it would be important more to discuss questions. I have something, but this is also, maybe these are some points that we can discuss. But maybe I can go to the conclusion here. And I know this was very short, and as I told you, it was an experiment. I hope I've inspired you to at least try this aspect of training. This is akin to training the body. This is training the mind. But we need to train ourselves to be more compassionate and kind human beings, both for ourselves and for our companions in life. And we owe this to the new generation of scientists, that is you. And I think I would like to close by this quote from Adam Grant, that is, let's try to behave as virtuous ancestors, not as dutiful descendants. With this, I would like to conclude, Arken. Maybe I can stop sharing, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts, because maybe, yeah, I don't know if this was useful for some people.
That was great as always. We have some questions from the audience, questions that were written in the chat box. So I'm just gonna, if you want to speak out, raise your hand and we will activate your mic. In the meantime, I will read the question by Valentina. Very interesting talk. Can you suggest practical tools? So how do we start practicing mindfulness?
Yes, a good point, Arca. Let me, because I had this in the presentation. Okay, this is you will have this presentation, so don't worry. But this is the list of books that I suggest. Do you see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you can start. This is Waking Up. This is a very interesting book from Sam Harris, who also has an app online which is called Waking Up. And let me know if you want to give it a try. You can just download it, but I can also give you 1 month for free just to try. Then there is the other one that I really like. It's a little bit different. I'm not going to elaborate, but this is Andy Padicom, one of the first actually who brought mindfulness from the Buddhist monks to the UK, and this is called Headspace. And he also wrote a book which is very light and nice. Instead, this book here, The Mind Illuminated, is a huge book really for professional meditators. It's like 600 pages, but it covers every aspect of mindfulness that you can imagine. Valentina, I hope this was sufficient. I
think that's great. Both the apps are a great guide, and the books give you a good rationale for doing it. Thank you, Christian. So we have, again, if you want to speak out, raise your hand. In the meantime, Alexandra Fesiuk, thank you for a great talk. Do you think it is good to take a short few minutes break to meditate during the workday, either to refocus or calm down or other reasons?
Yes, definitely. So what I suggest is the following. Initially, maybe, since you might not be familiar, but I suggest maybe to take, the section generally are 10 minutes, once a day to see how it works. But then once you're acquainted with the technique, there is no difference between when you meditate and your normal level. So you will gradually bleed your meditation exercise into your daily life. And then you will become more aware of things that are around you. So you don't actually have to dedicate a single time eventually, but you will be constantly in a mindful state. This is of course what you want to aspire. But yes, so start maybe once a day, see how it goes, and then you can have minutes when you pause and refocus. This is an excellent idea.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that that's great. I think that beyond meditation, focusing on your breath is a tool that sometimes allows you to stop without needing to go into a full meditation mode, but to stop and reset for a bit, right?
Yes.
So
yes, correct.
We have a live question from Maria.
Maria.
Hi,
Hi, Maria.
Amazing talk. I guess it was maybe more difficult to prepare this one than one about mitochondria.
Gosh, yes. I've been working on this for months. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just more, maybe more a comment. Meditating is great, and I have also started during the pandemic, and I really like mindfulness. But for me, the best advice ever from mindfulness is do one thing at a time. So if I'm seeing this talk, I'm not checking my email. If I am with my kids, I am with my kids. I actually think this is a gift. And I don't know what you think, but we have been trained sometimes that multitasking is good. And if you want to be productive, you have to multitask. And I think this is a big mistake. Can you please comment a bit on this? Thank you, Christian.
Yes, I think it's a risk. It's a risk of that we are, we're making. Based on what I told you, if you are constantly distracted by, things that you're doing, you have the risk of not doing anything in a conscious way. And I think I struggle. I must say that although this was considered as something to achieve, I think it's making our brain more distracted and more, maybe less efficient. You know, it is true that some people like to do this multitasking, but very often, actually, I realize that multitasking is not as a tool for being able to do more stuff, but actually is a consequence of distraction. So as you've seen, I talked that distraction is our mode. I think multitasking is exploiting this distraction mode, and so it's doing probably a disservice. But this is my view, and I totally agree that we need to do more focused time on things that we care the most.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Christian. So we have another question from Michelle Guevara. Thank you for your talk. So early career scientists often neglect prioritizing our mental health. For a beginner, how often do you recommend to practice this 3-minute breathing exercise? I think you answer a little bit to this. Yeah. Do you suggest all the exercises, training tools? I think it goes in the same direction.
Yes, I think you need to start somewhere, and I think just one of these apps, if you need, but you also need just a timer, is more than sufficient, at least to give you an idea of how it works. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah. In the meantime, just if there is some other question, we have time for a couple more questions. I wanted to also comment that I've been following the recommendations of Christian for a long time, or trying to at least ask him for advice. And I was thinking, in line with what you were saying, if we put it in the context of our work, meditation and being stuck in the past or in the future is also counteracting curiosity. And the motto of the EACR is curiosity-driven research. And the reality is that the moment that you are focused on the past, on the mistakes, or the thing that worked or didn't work, or what is going to work or what is not going to work, you are killing curiosity. So curiosity is the capacity to ask without
prejudice,
expectation, right?
Yes, totally agree. I think these things are really paralyzing. So yeah, thinking about the past, although we all know that it's kind of a norm, or thinking about the success, the failure that can occur in the future, it's really paralyzing. So this is why it's important to start fresh every day. I mean, I know a lot of things that I say might be easier said than done, but one can try, and I think with the exercise, one could improve.
Yeah. So we have
we have a question.
Wow, question. So from S.A. Osel, how define ego? We did about this, right?
I had. Thank you. This is so yes. Okay. From a practical point of view, that's exactly the reason why I told you about the non-dual mindfulness. However, this ego definition is still discussed in science. There is a field called phenomenology, which is very intriguing. And for some people, actually, the ego or the self is actually an illusion. So it's an illusion that is generated by our brain. So I don't have a definition. I wish I had it. The entire scientific community is working on that. But I know that you will have a feeling that you are a self looking outside of the world. But there is also this hypothesis that really this is all an illusion. Not that we as human beings are illusion, but the feeling that we are self is illusory. So I will stop here because otherwise we go into complicated discussions. But yeah.
Thank you, Christian. So a question from Isabel Duarte. Isabel, if you want to speak out, you are.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Christian. Thank you for your insights and advice. So I just had a curiosity while you were speaking. Are there any negative sides to meditation and mindfulness? Because we always hear about all the good things, but then if it's all good, why isn't there more of an audience to it?
So yes, I think mindfulness is not for everyone because, as I said at the beginning, right, it cannot help, for instance, very serious mental health disorders that need to be treated properly. So I think one needs to be careful. For instance, it depends on how one reacts to it. If you become too aware of your thoughts, this can be frightening for some people, especially at the beginning. You know, if you never think about, you know, being distracted or never think about all your thoughts that are coming, initially you might feel overwhelmed by this idea that, you know, yourself is an illusion and you are just a maze of thoughts. So it depends how you react to this. However, there is proven evidence that, and especially when I was in the UK, mindfulness is really being used for many ailments where the mind is known to participate. A lot of you know, diseases that where mind plays a role. I'm not thinking about depression, even though depression can also benefit from mindfulness, but all sorts of chronic diseases. This helps to aid your brain when you react to these diseases. So I don't know, the reason why it's also not more extensively done is, I think, because of the stigma towards mental health and the stigma against, as I said in my first slide, is that mindfulness seems something esoteric related to religion, but it's not. So this is also why I wanted to write this article to show you this is the case.
Okay, thank you.
I hope it makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did.
Thanks a lot. I will add that it's also very difficult to do. It's a lot of energy to meditate, right? So I think that we need to move on. So there's another from Desiree. Desiree, I would encourage you to contact Christian if you have a question, because we need to move on to Gavin, that he's on a schedule. So thank you again, Christian, for talking about the personal journey of research and something that's important as
Okay, I will say hi. I will stop my video. And if you want to ask me, send me the question in the chat. I will reply. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.